Hello, everybody. Jim Coyle with Indiana Sports Beat Radio, along with Mitchell Paige, former Indiana football player. I'm coming to you live from Southern Stone Restaurant here in Bloomington. And we've got Mitchell, like I said, for Monday evening quarterback. We're off last week because of the bye week, but we're back. And Mitchell, how you doing, brother?
I'm awesome. We were talking before the show. Started a new job. I'm feeling great. Excited to talk some Hoosier football. Unfortunately, once again, not much good to talk about on one side of the ball.
You are awesome, that's for certain. Last week was a difficult game to watch because it's a top 10 team that Indiana should have beat. The defense was outstanding, and they just needed a little bit here and there from the offense and just could not get that. And it's not like I'm saying something that anyone doesn't know. The biggest problem seems to be on the offensive line, and it starts there and goes other places. But that's the critical point right now, I think, is they're not getting holes open. They opened some holes early in the game against Michigan State, then it dissipated, and then they can't protect the quarterback. So that's a problem.
Yeah, everything starts on offense with the offensive line. And when you got a quarterback that's got hot feet, there's nothing you can do to settle him down. When he doesn't trust he's going to have his 2 or 3 seconds to go through his reads start getting quick, and then you start missing underneath defenders like you did on the pick six. And I applaud him for taking credit, as he should. He's the quarterback. But those things happen over the course of a game when you start getting a little unsure.
Yeah, and Jack Tuttle coming in. Tom Allen talked today that Penix is still week to week, but I don't know that I see a change coming for the rest of the season. So it's going to be Jack Tuttle more than likely. You've got McCullough coming in behind him. Now he's the number 2 guy. They were hoping to not have to use him this year to save his year, but he may not be able to use or they may end up using him. They used him the other night for only 3 plays, though. That kind of is disappointing to bring a guy in for 3 plays. I'm like, I don't know, why would you do that? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely. I think in his first game against a top 10 team, you definitely want to ease him into it. I remember when I was a freshman, just in practice, the bullets seemed like they were flying 1,000 miles an hour. So get his feet wet a little bit. I understand maybe in the first half, but try to get him 10 or so plays would have been all I would try to do. But I think you see a lot more of him in the coming weeks, especially with his athleticism. Sounds like he's got some accuracy issues in practice, but I think that also comes, we're talking with Jack Tuttle, getting your feet set and being comfortable back there. So it'll be interesting to watch that progress. Might go with a little 2-man scheme and see if we can produce some touchdowns in the red zone.
What that tells me is that they've already decided that his redshirt year is gone. I mean, would you agree with that?
Yeah. They do. You don't burn something like that. That year is valuable to the kid, to the coaches. It totally changes how you have to recruit now going down into the next few years. You don't make a decision like that lightly. So I expect to see him 15 to 20% of the snaps against Ohio State. And if he manages it well, that number to only increase.
Yeah, it could, because next year, every one of these guys are coming back like we've talked about. And Josh Hoover, who was on our show this morning, is coming in as a freshman. So it's going to be a very, very crowded room. And you want the guys getting the reps to be coming back. And right now they have that with Jack Tuttle and McCulley. Penix has that option, but we don't know where that's going to go. We'll have to leave that for after the season. But right now, looking forward to the rest of this season, Jack Tuttle's the guy, and he's going to have to be the guy. And they're going to have to protect him, though. But he does bring a few things that Michael couldn't do here of late. Run, and designed run plays maybe. Here's what I'd like to see, and I'm not an OC, obviously, but I don't understand why they're not rolling him out a little more. Roll him out, because he's got the wheels. Roll out some design quarterback draws. There's a lot of things you could do now with the guy, because you cannot be afraid of him getting hurt. You've got to play to win the game. But I don't know. And the offense, I'd like to see a lot more tempo. You need to do something to give yourself an advantage. Just stand out on the field and no huddle, that's okay. But the tempo, back in your day, it was the tempo that killed people. They could not keep up with the tempo. And I don't understand why they're not going to that route.
Yeah, I don't either. That's if I'm a head coach and an offensive coordinator, that's what I do. But it all is predicated on the idea that you have linemen and you have 7, 8, 9 linemen that you can be rotating. These aren't guys that come in and out every drive or during a drive, but you might be able to swap the left guard for the right guard, pull the right guard for individual drives. They stay on the field, so you're not seeing those swaps. But I remember back in 2015-16 seasons, we were able to move a lot of guys a lot of different places and keep them fresh so we could play at the really high tempo that we did. And I don't know this. I haven't been at practice, but I assume it has something to do with the offensive line and being able to block consistently. Because when you go tempo and you're behind the chains, now all of a sudden the defense had no time to rest, and there's a lot that goes into it to be able to effectively manage an up-tempo offense, and a lot of it is the offensive line.
But doesn't that also, when you're having offensive line problems, if you go with some tempo and you're getting the ball out of your hands faster, doesn't that alleviate the fact that the line is not blocking as well, so they don't have to hold their blocks as long?
Yeah, I think you've made some great points. It's a really double-edged sword when you look at an offensive line that is struggling when a defense gets set and is able to send some, especially a team like Michigan State that is known for sending some kind of different looks and bringing pressure. It gets you into more vanilla-based defenses like we talked about when Western Kentucky got Indiana's defense, a defense that's played so well against however 4 top 10 teams now. When you get any defense on their heels, it's hard to be the aggressor. So if I really like getting them out of the pocket, if we're struggling to maintain a pocket, even Jack Tuttle can move. He's not running a 4.4, but he can move and he's accurate. Let's see if we can get him out in space, and it adds just a completely different dynamic to your offense than. It's not Tom Brady that's sitting back there that's just going to sit and pick apart defenses. We need these kids to be moving around and make receivers run routes that make defensive backs choose. And there's just none of that. Every ball is contested. You talk about 50-50 balls. Well, they're 50-50 balls. You're not going to win every one. The defense is going to win some, but it feels like every time we're throwing even just a simple stop route to the boundary, it's a contested throw. And get these guys in rhythm. That's what I think the fans and I know alumni are waiting for. We need some rhythm on offense.
We haven't seen a lot of drops. Ty Freifogel, All-American, it just not looked very good this year. He's had several balls off of his hands that big time catches that would have been big time catches that he just hasn't made, and he just seems lost. I don't know what the word is, but he just doesn't seem checked in.
Yeah, he has a completely different, and I don't know Ty, and I mean this in the best way, but last year he had when he came on the screen, you just saw his face. He looked like he was a killer. And this year he kind of, not all the time, he's had his moments for sure, but there's been a little bit of deer in headlights look from him, just with drops, little 5-yard ins, and especially on key plays like third down conversions that keep drives alive, that we talk about this rhythm. Drops and penalties that kills an offense, and you're seeing a little bit of both, and it's hard to explain.
Well, here's the question: what can they do to change it? What needs to be changed that they can change right now? What do you do differently? The offensive line, I mean, they are who they are, and your players are who they are as well. So there's not a lot that can be changed. You've got losing DJ Matthews was a blow, because you lost a guy like you or a guy like Wap Fillier, who they could really use in some certain situations. They don't seem to have that guy right now, or they're not going to him. One of the others, and I don't know why. Miles Marshall, I mean, some drag. I mean, there's no drag routes. There's some easy, quick hits, and I don't know why they're not doing that.
Yeah, it's hard to stay on track and on time with the chains when every throw has to go 10 yards. It doesn't feel like there's anything over the middle. There's not just a space finder guy, and there's definitely not a blow the top off the defense speed guy. So they're kind of working against a loaded deck because they don't have a bunch of speed and they don't have a guy that looks super comfortable. You don't draw necessarily his route. You say, okay, if this guy does this, you do this. And if he does this, you do this. And your route kind of changes every time. That's what WAP was unbelievably good at. I mean, his routes were never the same because he's a feel guy, and they do not have that. And then they don't have time to protect the quarterback to deliver. If they have someone that's doing that, they have not been able to deliver to that guy enough to keep him on track and produce drives that result in touchdowns rather than field goals.
If you were offensive coordinator, what would you do differently if you could do something? Because like we just talked about, not having DJ Matthews, and that hurts, and the offensive line is not helping. So you get kind of not limited. Well, you are limited. You're kind of getting handcuffed with things if you don't have a line to block for runs and for passes. So where do you go? Where do you turn?
Yeah, that's a hard question, especially in the Big Ten, a conference that's kind of built on the interior. You have to get the quarterback out of the pocket. You have to make it easier for the offensive line where they don't have to hold and sustain blocks for 3.5 seconds. Maybe it's a chip block and they're moving with the quarterback. You get some read options where you don't have to block everybody and you can take care of a down lineman with a read from the quarterback, and you can add another person into the mix with a mobile quarterback. And I think Tuttle gives you that a little bit, and McCullough gives you not McCullough. Macaulay gives you that a little bit. And once you can start getting guys out of the tackle box, now defenses have to play more in space because you see it so much. Unfortunately, I texted my dad, what do you think is easier, or what a defensive coordinator, do you think he prepares harder in the bye week or for Indiana's offense? Like there's no imagination, there's no creativity, and it's definitely crippled by the offensive line, but you have to get out in space and make people defend you. And Indiana just doesn't do that ever.
And that last year that was there.
Yes.
Where has it gone is the thing. I mean, we've got the same offensive coordinator as you had a year ago. You've got a lot of the similar players, but not all. Penix is out. Obviously a couple of wide receivers were out, but Farfogel was. He was the deep guy. Is not having that underneath guy is what killing them. I mean, they have other guys that can catch the ball. I mean, I don't understand why they're not running the same plays with different people in those routes.
Yeah, that'd be a great question for Nick Sheridan. I mean, it looks like they're trying to do similar things. I think the biggest component of all of it is Stevie Scott. I think Stevie Scott was definitely underappreciated. He was a guy that would get you 4 or 5 hard-earned yards, and he reminded me so much of Jordan Howard in that way, where it just kept you on schedule. And we have way too many runs that are stopped at the line of scrimmage or a yard behind the line of scrimmage. Playing in 2nd and 10, you just can't. The playbook gets shrunken, whatever the word is for that. You don't have that much at your disposal. You need a guy that's going to be able to get you 3 or 4 yards that he shouldn't get. And Indiana just doesn't have that. Stephen Carr has been a good addition, it sounds like, for the team morale, but I think there's a lot of times where he's dancing in the hole, and you need to stick your foot in the ground and put your face on somebody sometimes and get those extra yards. And Indiana just doesn't have a guy that's going to do that right now.
Well, this Saturday, 7:30, under the lights, the Ohio State Buckeyes come calling. I don't even know what they're ranked right now. They're in the top 10 because you got another top 10.
Not high enough, unfortunately.
First of all, and I'm not using it as an excuse because it's not, but how about this crazy schedule Indiana has played already? Can you think of, I'm going to have to do some research, but I said this to you, can you think of a team that in their first 7 games will have played, is this their 4th or 5th? 5. That's yeah. I don't know that that's ever happened before.
Yeah, I mean, Indiana could beat every team that's not in the top 10 on their schedule and be 6-6. That's just an an unbelievable statistic. And now you have Purdue that's going to be ranked if they're not already. I haven't looked at the things, but that was a phenomenal win for them. They looked fantastic. They beat the crap out of Iowa. David Bell is as an elite receiver as you're going to get in college football. He's going to make a whole bunch of money in the NFL. He's just a monster. And you just have guys like that all over the conference. And it's just the cards you're dealt in the Big Ten East. Adding Cincinnati makes that a little harder. They didn't foresee that, I'm sure, when they scheduled it, but that's the cards you're dealt. It's the best conference, best side of a conference in college football, in my opinion, and I'm 100% biased. It's what you get, and you got to be stepping up to the plate when your number's called and make plays that win games, and Indiana's not doing that, and it doesn't get any easier.
Well, you've got Ohio State coming in, like I said. They're not as strong as they have been, but it's still Ohio State. They're still deep.
Not yet.
So it's going to be a challenge. But Indiana has played with Cincinnati. Probably should have won that game. They played with Michigan State. Probably should have won that game. So there's two top 10 teams that they probably should have beaten. Could have beaten. I don't know if they can play with Ohio State or not, just because the offense has not shown me anything. They've scored one touchdown in 3 Big Ten games. That's the
three
scary
pick sixes.
part.
3 pick sixes, maybe 4, and scored 1 touchdown. Are you kidding me?
That
can't
only
be a real statistic.
Have to hope that they can play with Ohio State. I know that they can. The defense is
they certainly can on one side of the ball.
Yeah, with anybody in the country, which is amazing. And you hate to see the defense go out there and just do what they do, and then and watch the offense go out there and not produce or turn the ball over or whatever the case may be. But they have to keep performing at the highest level that they can. But this offense has to do something. They've got to win 4 out of their last 6 games to become bowl eligible.
Yeah, the way that they've played offense in the first 6 games, I don't foresee a lot of hope because it's awful. There's no rhythm. They don't put pressure on anybody. There's something significant has to change.
What do they have to do differently?
I don't know if it's a mindset, but for whatever, the defensive guys are no higher rated than the offensive guys. It's not like there's a bunch of 5-star recruits running around on our defense. They're the same talent pool, but for some reason, the defense just believes at an exponentially higher level that they're with the best in the country, and the offense is just clearly not. I'm sure they all have Twitter and Instagram, and they are getting beaten down, and I don't know what the answer is. I don't think there is a quick fix, unfortunately. There's a whole bunch of issues and problems, and you have to look internally, and somebody on the offense, they're looking for a leader, because it's certainly not anybody that's playing right now. They're looking for somebody that's going to be a Mike McFadden and decide we're not playing like this anymore, and change practice, change today, change
practice?
Tuesday.
Practice?
Yeah, we're talking.
You talking about practice?
Yeah, they got to have some kind of. I'm not sure what their schedule is anymore. I'm sure they're in full pads tomorrow. They better come with some physicality, because
here's a word that's come up so often from the coaches, and I'm like, okay, why are you saying this in week 6, 7? Execution. We're not executing. Why? It's 6 weeks in, 7 weeks in to a veteran team, and you really have to ask, why? Why are you not executing when you have veterans that have played serious minutes? So that's a big question that needs answered.
Answered quickly. We talked about it earlier. These are guys that have played. Jack Tuttle has played. The offensive line have played. You have receivers that have played in big games, big moments. And you have a transfer that was a 5-star running back at USC. He's played in big games. And to worry about silly mistakes, and mistakes happen, but for them to call, if that's what their issue is, they're just not executing the plan that they were given. And the plan it's not a bad plan. They're just not executing the plan. That's scary how poor the execution must be for this to be the product that we've seen.
Well, we come up this Saturday, like I said, it's a Under the Lights against the Buckeyes of Ohio State, national television, ABC. Indiana could change some minds, shock the world. It's not like we haven't seen people do that. We have, and they have the defense to do that. I can't, there's nothing in me that can say that they have a chance to win that game with what I've seen offensively. The defensively, hell yeah. But I don't see that they have anything on offense that can beat Ohio State. And I hate to say that.
Yeah. I don't think our offense would beat hardly anybody in the country right now. So
Well, it hasn't so far.
Yeah, asking to beat Ohio State, we're going to need some special teams touchdowns and some defensive something. And you're asking, the defense is already doing unbelievable things. They're doing everything you could ask them, and it sucks to say, hey, you got to do more. But you're exactly right. With what we've seen, this has got to be won with our defense scoring points.
I'm coming to you from Southern Stone Restaurant here in Bloomington at the corner of Patterson and Rogers. It's the same place where they have the IU basketball and football coaches shows. The football coaches show is coming up this Wednesday. Stop by if you'd like to. It's at 7:05. Don Fisher will be here. And then Mike Woodson will, when he starts his coaches shows on Mondays, will be here this year. And so come out to Southern Stone. Man, the food is incredible. Oh, man, I was looking at the specials on the way in. Just makes me hungry. You got to get into town and come by and check it out.
I'll be there this weekend. I was waiting for a good time. This is perfect. Yep.
What?
I'll be up there. Had some unfortunate personal events happen last week, so I'll be up there Friday. But me and a couple people will be down on Saturday for the game, and may go try to play some golf in the morning out at the foul course. We'll see.
There you go, brother. Well, I hate my condolences for the things that are going on, but as you come in and you come to this game, you're a fan of Indiana. I understand it. You played there and you want them to win. All the fans want them to win. The team wants to win. The coaches want to win, but they're doing the same things wrong. So how can they, other than just doing it right and executing the way that they're not executing? I don't have an answer. I mean, if it's execution, then use someone else. Use the bench as a motivator. I mean, then you got, this guy's not good enough. That's a problem because I thought that they had gotten to a point where they had better depth on the offensive line, at least enough where you could take a guy out to bench him for a minute or to shake him up or something. I don't know.
Yeah. That kind of goes back to what I was saying. You got to have guys to be able to do it. And the drop-off must be severe because a guy that's doing the wrong thing that's better is not going to be better than a guy that's maybe a little less talented but is fighting like crazy to do what he's supposed to do and knows exactly where he's supposed to be. It's amazing how much quarterbacks value and offensive coordinators value a guy that knows you can give him any look in the world and he knows exactly what he has to do in every play call that we could have for the week. And there has to be some kind of miscommunication between coaches to coaches to players, because it's clear there something is not being communicated from the plan that they've put together that has worked in the past. I mean, Nick Sheridan, his philosophies, his schemes worked last year, and they're just not this year. And there has to be some drop in communication somewhere, and it's on Coach Allen to figure out where that is happening and nip it like now.
Nip it in the bud. Tom Allen spoke today. We were there for the press conference. One of the things he talked about was Jack Tuttle threw a couple of interceptions. The one was a killer. They were in their own red zone, unfortunately going the wrong way when he threw that pick. But let's hear what Tom Allen had to say, John.
He did some good things, but the two picks were costly. One was pressure, one was not. Just got to protect football. When you're pressured, sacks not a bad thing. We got to punt. Defense is playing at a high level, so just protect the football. That's the biggest takeaway. Decisions, he made some mistakes, but first time starting this year. Still, the time looked like he was, a guy who hasn't played a lot of football as far as collectively, which he has not, but still expecting to play a little better than he did. But you got to rise up. He'll learn from it. He'll play better. He had some open receivers who didn't hit at times that hurt us, even in the red zone. And some of that was protection, but most of it was just his eyes in the right spots. But solid performance, but not good enough. But he'll get better, and we got to play better around him. We got to coach better. We got to give him some better options and do a better job. I got to do a better job. It's buck sauce for me.
And that's right, but they can only say that so many weeks in a row, and something has to change. And I'm not talking about firing or anything like that. I'm talking about doing something different, like tempo or whatever. You've got to make some changes, make some adjustments, do something different that they're not expecting. Because right now, lining up and handing the ball to Stephen Carr, and the passes, they're not even really getting passes off. So it's not. Ty Freifelgel's dropping some good ones when he gets them. So they don't even have a piece of the offense that's doing really well. It's not like, hey, well, the short game's working or this is working. There's not a lot. There's nothing that's worked that well to begin with.
Yeah, I mean, nail on the head. It's the kind of the definition of insanity, what we're trying here. It's trying the same thing for 6 straight weeks and expecting something different to happen. You have to mix something up. I would rather take 25 shots a game, like 25-yard plus throws. Let's see if we can take the top off. Maybe we don't have all the speed, but we've got size. Let's challenge a team vertically. We haven't done that hardly at all. The last big play that I can remember off the top of my head is to DJ Matthews. And I don't even remember what game it was. But the fact that it was to him, that tells you all you need to know. It's been there's been no explosive plays. There's been no threat of explosive plays. You've got to do something. You've got to try to get defenses out of 7 yards from the line of the scrimmage, waiting for you to hand the ball off. You have to do something to challenge. And at some point, Jim, it's going to get hard to talk about Indiana football because we're just talking about the same thing every week.
Well, Ohio State coming in this weekend, like I said, it is not going to be easy. It's not going to get easier after that.
No.
The Big Ten East is what it is. It's a juggernaut, and we've talked about that ad nauseum, so there's no point in banging on that. They get another opportunity this Saturday, so that's all you can say. They have to come to play, but they've got to just step up and start making plays.
Yeah, it's as simple as that. You get a team like Ohio State that –
you were a wide receiver. What are you saying from the wide receivers?
Everybody looks so out of rhythm. There's nothing. We were always
and be more specific with that, because when you're talking about out of rhythm with the quarterback, out of rhythm with as the group, what do you mean exactly?
Yeah, so I'll just use what I know as an example. When we are really efficient and successful on offense, we were able to complete short throws that extended off our run game, bubble screens.
Where do those go?
I haven't seen one all season. Any kind of run pass option where it's a simple read for the quarterback. You're reading literally one guy inside the box, one linebacker. If he flows inside, you throw the stick. If he stays outside, you hand it off. And it's simple little plays that get your quarterback's eyes in rhythm. It gets your running backs in rhythm because it gets them touches. It gets receivers in rhythm because they're out there blocking, making contact, making catches. And there's been none of that. And if you're Ty Freifelgel and you're asked to run a 16-yard comeback, that's a big time route. And when you're out of rhythm and out of sync and you haven't touched the ball in 2 quarters and you've run a bunch of routes, ball isn't even close to you. Sometimes it's hard to, ball's coming, get your eyes, get your hands ready to catch the ball, just because there's just something about, it's like anything in golf. Like, I love golf. You go to the driving range, you hit a couple good drivers, you're going to feel a lot better on the first tee than if you just go up there cold. And I understand you're running around, you're feeling good, but when the ball isn't in your hands, especially as a receiver or a running back, it's hard to get yourself to fake it. And there has to be some way to get the ball and disperse the ball quickly on short passes, bubble screens, now screens, any kind of RPO, run pass option plays. And there's been that's what I mean by rhythm. There's been none of those plays, and nobody ever gets in rhythm, and that's why we punt every down.
I agree. Well, you've got Saturday night. It's a big game, like I said, and they're going to have to do something crazy to win that game. And right now, I don't see that being a realistic thought. And I don't mean it to be down. I don't, because I want them to win. It's a lot easier, more fun to cover a winning team. And you're around the guys, the coaches. I want to see them win. Of course, went to school here, but I don't think that's going to happen Saturday unless something happens that I haven't seen in the first 6 games.
Yeah, I'm not full media, so I don't have to be full biased or unbiased. I believe the Hoosiers are going to win every game with my heart.
And I like that about you.
But with my head, it's been brutal to watch. And there's been some misplays on defense as well. I see in the comments, Brian.
What about Jack Tuttle? How's he? I mean, he hasn't even. There's not a lot of body of work there.
No, he's we'll see. I would love. I know last year we got no passes down the field. We got the most conservative offense I think I've ever seen with him, and that's maybe because they aren't super confident in him. I don't know the answer to that question, but we'll have to see how things progress against a Michigan State team that's playing fantastic as your first game, and then against an Ohio State team that's year in and year out in the college football playoff. So we're going to get 2 very stern tests, and I think what I hope and what I'm hopefully going to be able to feel in the stadium is them taking the reins off a little bit and just say, Jack, listen, you have to be the leader. You have to be the one that kind of sets the tone and take a shot down the field.
They're gonna have to take many shots down the field this week. I mean, they're gonna need explosive plays, not an explosive play, because that's what it's going to take this weekend. And there's those point in just sitting around and beating the same bag around, because that's all we can do. That's all that there is right now. So hopefully things will change this Saturday, and I'm glad you're coming in. We can see maybe you'll bring some good luck.
Yeah. Anytime being in the stadium is a good thing. One thing I do want to say about Ohio State that I admire so much about Ohio State and why they're so good on offense. Most teams that are really good on offense don't have a bunch of 12-play drives. I think it's wrong to expect Nick Sheridan to say, hey, let's get 5 yards every time. That's just not going to happen.
Right.
They have really good players on defense too. They have scholarship players that are going to make plays. Ohio State wins because they have 3 receivers that can go up and make plays. And they have a bunch of plays over 30 yards. They score long touchdowns. That's the whole game. That's how you build an explosive, high-scoring offense. It's all big plays, and we haven't seen that from any from Indiana, and hopefully it changes. And if it does, we got a good shot, Jim, because our defense is the best.
We'll hear from Charlton Warren in a minute. Let's hear from Nick Sheridan, the offensive coordinator. He also spoke today at the press conference, Indiana's offensive coordinator. Go ahead and roll that one, John.
Yeah, there's really a couple of main points. Number one, our quarterbacks have turned the ball over too much, period. That's pretty evident to everybody. So that can't happen. That's led to us losing games. We've turned the football over too much. Number two is we haven't scored touchdowns in the red zone. And it's really not that much more complicated than that. We've had opportunities in the red area and we haven't scored touchdowns. And ultimately, that leads to points. I think the explosive plays have not been what we want it to be. And those are really the 2 factors when you're talking about points and production in that regard. We've had moments we've moved the ball, we've gotten first downs, but when you're talking about putting points on the board, you have to have explosive plays and you have to score and finish drives in the red area. And we just have not done that. And so, it's not for a lack of trying or, problem solving, but it just hasn't come to light, in games, and we got to do a better job. And if we were able to do that on one drive Saturday, we would have won the game. We had an opportunity to win, but we didn't. And so We need to be better there as a staff, as players, and find a way to score touchdowns in the red area and not turn the ball over like we have at the quarterback position.
Well, kind of already knew all of that.
I just said that.
Yeah.
It
Yeah, we
takes
all said
explosive
that.
plays.
Yeah, explosive plays, not turning the ball over, scoring in the red zone. Yeah, we agree. I agree with all of that. So if they can't do it now, they had 2 weeks off in the bye, and that's the disappointing thing. You have the bye week, and so you can really get into it and go back, and it looked pretty same old. That's a big disappointment to me.
Yeah, I mean the quarterback, I think he had a fumble as well, but pick six, that sucks. But that happens. Like I said, they have good players too. To not be able to come up with any explosive plays after 2 weeks of watching a Michigan State defense that's good, but it's not like, I mean, I don't believe at the end of the season they'll be a top 10 team. That's one of the, not close to one of the best teams that Indiana's played. And to not be able to take advantage of kind of like simple things that Michigan State was trying to take away, it was really, really disappointing.
Absolutely. Let's see. Charlton Warren, defensive coordinator. The defense it's the lone bright spot on this team right now. Charles Campbell, he's been kicking very well. And he got a lot of opportunities the other night. But let's hear what Charlton Warren had to say, defensive coordinator.
I think you have to have balance. I think you got to be able to stop the run. I think you got to be able to stop and contain the run. You got to be able to keep a lid on the passes, and you got to find your spots to pressure. You don't want to be so one-sided where you're doing great on one end, but every time I hand the ball off, it's a gain of 20. You don't want to play so much coverage, play so less coverage where you can throw the ball off your head. So balance is what I look for. You got to have calls that you feel good against the run. You got to have calls shifting at the pass, and then you got to have ways that when you say, you know what, we're going after the quarterback right now. You got to have those ways. So we've tried to be balanced all year, which helps keep down the explosive plays. It helps you not give up so much in the run game. And then we got to find ways against a great team to have balance in all three areas where when we need to get a negative yardage play, we have ways to do that. When we feel like as a throwing down, we have ways to help our guys on the perimeter. And then when we got to stop the run, you have ways. So I think you got to have a lot of different ways and different facets to do that. You can't just sell out on something every play. So we're going to have to find balance against a great team.
There's the defensive coordinator for Indiana. They've done a pretty good job. It doesn't always look like it statistically. The offense has kept them in a lot of bad positions, but they played pretty daggone well, especially when they've had to play as much as they've had to be on the field as they have here of late. But we'll see what they can do this Saturday, man, as the Buckeyes come into town. Hopefully Indiana can find something on that offensive side and change the scheme around and do some things differently. But that's what's going to have to happen for them to win that game. It's not impossible. They certainly can do it, but they're going to have to make changes before Saturday night.
Yeah, I want to stick with defense a little bit because, like you said, they are a bright spot. And I think they've done a really good job of kind of customizing their plan to who they're playing. I thought they were great in the run against the Michigan State team that's got a potential Heisman Trophy winning running back. Not sure as much anymore because how well Indiana played them. But and then customizing to a Cincinnati pass attack that is really explosive and has some really dynamic. That number 12, Alec Pierce kid, is as good as David Bell. Those are the two best receivers I've seen in the country.
David Bell's a bad man.
They're both of them. So it'll be really interesting to see how Indiana tries to balance getting pressure on a young quarterback that's looked like he's not a young quarterback. I think he's getting better and better every week versus trying to sit back in coverage a little bit because you have all those weapons on the other side. Personally, I hope they try to heat up quarterback and make him beat you. But it'll be interesting to see from a guy that's done really well all season, called really good games all season, how they adapt to what they believe Ohio State is going to bring. And I think that Indiana did a really good job of it last year in the second half with adjustments. I'll be curious how we do this year, see if we can put a whole game together.
Absolutely, man. And like I said, I'm here at Southern Stone Restaurant. Don't be afraid. Don't miss out on coming here. Let me tell you, Patterson and Rogers. A lot of people aren't familiar with it because it's kind of away from downtown just a little bit, but it's at Patterson and Rogers. It is superb here. You've got Feast right next door as well. So the food is awesome. I can't wait. I'm gonna get the special tonight. It's actually some kind of bacon hamburger or something, but it looked really good with clam chowder. Clam chowder.
I may maybe get some lunch there. Maybe get some lunch there Saturday before the game.
Let me know and I'll make it happen. But looking forward to it. And thank you a lot, as always, for joining us each Monday. Hopefully, shockingly, we can have something fun to talk about next week. That would be sensational.
Cross your fingers, man.
We'll do it, brother. Look forward to seeing you on Saturday. Hope you bring the luck with you.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll give you a text when I get in town, and we'll get together.
Perfect. Mitchell Paige, former Indiana football player, joining us here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio from, as the fire truck goes by, from the Southern Stone Restaurant. Looking forward to it. Of course, I'll see you tomorrow on Indiana Sports Beat Radio. But until then, I'm Jim Coyle for Mitchell. I'll see you.